Oh hey YouTube, what's really good? My name is Invivid Color, your coach of the South Texas Sableyes, and this is going to be your draft breakdown for Season 2 of the Pgbl. Also known as the league that we won Season 1 of, in case you do not remember that. The links to the playlist will be in the description down below. You should go watch it. It's a great showing for how talented of a battler I am, or how fucking lucky I am. It really just depends on how you think about the situation and what your perspective is on life. Moving forward, I just want to say that this is already incredibly late. I'm currently prepping for week 3 right now. Weeks 1 and 2 have been filmed. They're done. I'm doing this after them. Week 1, it was a mess trying to schedule between my schedules and Johnny's schedule, so it was just awful. And week 2 was right after week 1 and it was on time, but it was right before the holidays and I just didn't have a chance to edit, upload, all that nonsense. So just know that after this goes up, you're gonna get back-to-backs week 1 and 2, so you can look at it as a good thing or a bad thing depending on how much you like to watch battles. I also want to clarify that if these slides look a little strange, it's because they were used during a live draft reveal that went up on Hannonz's Twitch channel. That's why it has a box for last pick over here and next pick up here. I normally wouldn't use this information on a live draft reveal, but at this point I just want to get it done, and these graphics are already provided for us. Thanks so much for that, Rewt, and let's just get right into it. Coming in at pick 1, I went with my actual ideal first pick in just about any draft, and that is Jirachi. Jirachi does so much. It's got fantastic base stats all across the board. It can play as aggressive, it can play defensive, it can flinch things with Iron Head, it can flinch things with Zen Headbutt, and now I sound like a dick, but the moral of the story is Jirachi is just a really versatile Pokemon. It gives you a lot of options. It can play physical, it can play special, it can play physically defensive, it can play specially defensive, it can play utility. Jirachi can do just about everything, and that is the reason I picked it round 1. It seemed bananas to me, and I had to snipe it up. Moving into the second round, I picked up Hydreigon. This is a Pokemon that I wanted in the other draft league that I'm in right now, the Pgbl, but it got taken from me, and it was still around during round 2, and it combos pretty well with Jirachi. Jirachi's weak to fire, Hydreigon resists. Jirachi's weak to ground, Hydreigon is immune. Hydreigon is something I've always wanted to try. Much like Jirachi, it can fill a lot of roles in one Pokemon. You can Assault Vest it and make it bulky. You can Scarf it and make it fast. It got Defog and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. It just does a lot in one Pokemon, so it was my second pick. Round 3 is where my draft started to get a little strange. I do not think that Toxapex had to be picked this early, but I wanted to secure it, and I wanted to make sure that I got it with the Pokemon that I picked after this to form a really strong defensive core that I've always wanted to try in Draft League. Now, Toxapex does a lot for a defensive pivot. Regenerator means it's going to stay very healthy. It offers Scald Presence. It can set Toxic Spikes, and just in general, it is very hard to break through. The downside is that Toxapex has absolutely zero offensive presence, but I feel like my first 2 picks were already offensive enough that I could justify taking 2 very, very bulky Pokemon back to back. This is what I meant when I said I wanted to form a very specific defensive core. I picked Toxapex and Tangrowth back to back. Both of these Pokemon have Regenerators so they can stay healthy, and both of these Pokemon can take hits for days. You can tell by looking at its attacking stats that Tangrowth provides a lot more offensive presence than Toxapex does, and on top of that, it provides a lot of utility. It gets Knockoff, it gets Leech Seed, it gets Sleep Powder, it can just do a lot of things. And once again, alongside Toxapex, I have a very strong defensive core that is going to stay healthy throughout the game, and that's really what I wanted to try in this draft. For round 5, I ended up taking Cloyster, and once again, I think this is an aggressive pick. I don't think I had to draft Cloyster this early, but it offered a lot of things that I was looking for. It might not be the best spike setter, it might not be the best rapid spinner, and it might not be the best setup sweeper, but it does all 3 of those things, and that's really why I picked it up. Shelf Smash Cloyster can punch holes through teams, it can set up spikes if you switch in on something and make predictions, and it can rapid spin once in a while. So I picked it. Now for round 6, I decided that since my team is already slow and bulky, I would give myself a Trick Room option to that team. Jirachi already sets Trick Room, but its speed is very high, so I ended up picking Porygon 2 because it's another Trick Room setter and it has a low speed, so it can actually abuse Trick Room. On top of that, Porygon 2 is incredibly bulky, and after playing the first 2 weeks with this Pokemon, I can confirm that it eats up hits for days. Now I will admit that Porygon 2 can cause you to lose momentum, but it also just stonewalls certain Pokemon, so I think it's a pretty fair trade-off. There was also another reason I picked this. It's because I have Porygon and Pgbl, and I thought it'd be really sweet to have Porygon 1 and 2, and I can name them Litecoin and Bitcoin and think that I'm clever. In round 7, I decided to take my last free agent pick in Sylveon. I wanted a really good fairy type to sort of wrap up my Fairy Dragon Steel Core, and Sylveon seemed like the absolute best one to do that. Sylveon can pass bulky wishes, it can Cleric with Heal Bell, and those are both things that I always want my fairies to be able to do. On top of that, Pixelate Sylveon hits like a truck with Hyper Voice. I feel like there's not much to say about Sylveon. As a fairy type, it's just generically good on draft league teams, and it was still open, so I picked it. At this point in the draft, there were some pseudo rain teams forming, and based on my performance in last year's PGVL with rain, I wanted to make sure that I had a clean answer to rain. So I drafted Torkoal. Torkoal rounds out my Firewater Grass Core, even if it is admittedly the weakest link to that core. It can set up stealth rocks, rapid spin, and hits very hard with fire type attacks in the sun, so it seems like an extremely value pick for this tier at this point in the draft. Moving into round 9, I realized that my team is pretty slow. It's really bulky overall, but it's very slow. Jirachi is my fastest Pokemon, coming in at base 100, and I wanted to have something to sort of break past that just to make sure my opponents couldn't always prep for just Jirachi. So I ended up picking Archeops. Archeops gets a bad reputation due to its ability, but I think it has the potential to do a lot of work. Now I might bring it without an item most week just so I can abuse acrobatics, but it's something. It does a lot of damage, it hits very hard, its dual stab type moves are not very well resisted by most Pokemon, and on top of that, it gets a wide array of coverage moves to hit the things that do resist it pretty hard. Before talking about my round 10 pick in Mega Heracross, I should specify that by round 6 or 7, every other coach had already picked their Mega, and I knew what Mega I was going to pick at that time, so I just pushed it off to the very end of the draft. Now there were still some incredibly viable Megas open like Mega Mawile and Mega Pinsir, but I had to pick a tier 2 Mega to get extra points so that I could afford both of my free agent picks. If this confuses you, I'll put a screenshot of the rules on the screen right now so you can read them and sort of understand what I mean when I say I needed a tier 2 Mega to get extra points for my free agents. Now at an earlier point in the draft, I originally wanted Mega Deontay as my fairy type, but I talked to Leo or 6-Foot Hacks about it and he really wanted Mega Deontay, so I just told him I wouldn't take it, and if it got sniped, it wasn't going to be by me. That being said, I think Mega Heracross is a monster and it fits really well with the theme of the team, which is just everything's kind of generally bulky, everything can function pretty well in Trick Room, and on top of that, this thing is a wall breaker and a half, which is something that I needed at this point. Just so you know, we had to designate Z captains for our team, so only 2 Pokemon on each team can hold a Z Crystal. My 2 are Hydreigon and Archeops. Hydreigon I think is pretty self-explanatory. It gets infinite coverage and hits very hard. Now Archeops might seem a little strange, but something like Z Sky Attack can do a ton of damage, so I decided to go with it. Alright, so this is it. This is your South Texas Sableyes for season 2 of the Pgbl. If you like my draft, let me know in the comment section down below. If you have a lot of critiques for my draft, don't leave them in the comment section down below. Tell me what you like about it instead, because I think that this is the weirdest team I've ever drafted, and I just don't want to hear this is bad over and over again. Please boost my confidence. If you made it through this entire video, I just want to say thank you so much. It means the absolute most to me. I know sometimes these videos of me rambling about Pokemon can be not the most entertaining, but I tried to do my absolute best. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you're incredibly excited for season 2 of the Pgbl, please be sure to leave a like on this video. It would mean the absolute most to me as well. Other than that, if you're new here, you might as well consider clicking that sub button, because realistically, the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to see my face a little bit more often, and along with this face is going to come some dope battles, and I've got some other fun content planned. I'll get to it, I promise. That being said, guys, my name is Vivid Color. I'm kind of done here and I gotta leave. Bye. So tell me